Hello and welcome to Vendago TV. My name is Lerone Brown and I'm joined by Monté Smalls. He is a financial consultant specializing in giving financial guidance to help people get out of debt, learn to invest for future potential, also set a path to create financial freedom. And with that being said, as you're watching this, maybe you can learn a thing or two. I know I'm going to be learning some stuff, so let's see what Monty got to say. Hey, Mr. Monty, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, and thank you for joining. I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom. I hope we all learned something from it. So I appreciate it.
For sure, for sure. I'm honored. I appreciate you inviting me on in the first place. I'm looking forward to just being able to share a little bit. I'm gonna keep it pretty high level, but definitely going to be impactful, um, and bringing some valuable information, man.
All right. Well, let's get to it. So I hear you got some things you wanted to share with the audience.
Yes, sir. I want to share a little bit about investing, or what I call paying yourself first. I know that's a concept that some people hear that phrase and they're kind of like, "What are you talking about? Paying yourself first?" But we'll get into it in a little bit. So that also talking a little bit about eliminating debt and why that matters, and um, showing just a little bit of strategy on how to be able to do that. Um, because you can stumble upon debt, but you won't stumble out of debt. You know what I mean? Gotta be a little bit intentional about it. But then also protecting your income. We protect things like our cars and our homes just in case something happens. And so if we can protect our income as well, then of course that's something that we would definitely want to do versus not.
And I'm excited to hear about all that stuff. And let me go ahead and get to our presentation. Here you go.
Sounds good. Well, let's go ahead and make it happen. So financial literacy is that's what I live, that's what I breathe. Um, so my question, Lerone, that I'm going to ask you is there a need for financial literacy?
Oh, yeah, there's a major lead for financial literacy. Basically, financial literacy is understanding how money works. So if you understand how money works, you can know how many different ways you can use it to better your life.
You are correct. Literally spot on, man. One of the things that I've recognized is that, or that I've noticed, and I think we all have, right? But people are
Hmm.
having a lot of financial challenges these days. Not that it's anything new, right? But especially in 2025, there's just a lot happening right now, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Inflation, new administration,
Yes.
stuff with jobs, all of these different things, right? And so,
Hmm.
the what it really comes down to, what a couple things. One, we've recognized that a lot of folks just don't have the financial education that we really need. We didn't learn it in school growing up.
Right.
We didn't learn it at home from our parents. Not that our parents were bad people, but they taught us what they knew, right? Which
Right.
you know wasn't necessarily a whole lot, right? And
Hmm.
so we do our best to learn from our mistakes and move forward from there, right? Another thing that we recognize as far as why people have some challenges financially is the fact that most of us don't have a financial game plan.
Hmm.
So we didn't learn it in school, right? We figured out how to get a job and get a paycheck coming in,
Right.
which is great because we need that. However, we don't have that step by step process on how to get from where we are to where we want to be.
Hmm.
And so that's just another gap there, right? But the
Hmm.
other thing that I found, Larone, is that most of us we don't have a financial professional that we can just ring up. We might have a nice tax lady, right, who can get us that nice refund, which is
Right.
great. That's a big deal too. Don't get me wrong. But again, as far as getting to financial freedom, as you mentioned, or just places that we want to be at a better spot in the future, we don't really have anybody to really call. We can call up cousin Johnny, but Johnny's giving us again a little bit of what he knows
Hmm.
versus having that professional. So, a big part of my job is just to help fill in the gap. So, we know that people have some challenges, of course, as you just mentioned, right? We know that
Yes.
financial literacy, there's a need for it, but I wanted to, touch on just a couple of numbers real quick. So, There's more than 102 million uninsured and underinsured Americans that are just out here, meaning we don't have any coverage, or if we got something, we got just a little bit. So if
Mm-hmm.
God were to call us home today, our families, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle a bit. Another thing, right? Only 1 in 4 people are actually contributing to their retirement savings. That's not a lot, Mr. Brown.
Oh yeah.
That's not a lot at all, which means that, a lot of us were going to be, or we're unintentionally planning to make it off of Social Security, which is the average right now is less than $2,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to make it on less than $2,000 a month. And even within that, I was looking this up. Even the Social Security Administration has put it out there that the fund for Social Security funds is going to be depleted by 2033. That's only a few years away.
Yeah.
So
Could you
that means
imagine
that
that?
I can't, to be honest with you, because
It's like it's one thing about Social Security. See, when you've had a job starting at probably around 16, when you got your first job, they take out that taxes go to Social Security,
Mhm,
and basically that tax come out for your whole work life. You
mhm,
imagine you put a lot of that work into it, and you're wondering where is my Social Security money that's supposed to benefit me for all the work that I put into society
right.
going. And you'll be surprised where that money that you've worked for, that's supposed to secure your future, where it goes. Encourage people to look into that, and they have something to say, because that money comes out of your tax. You pay for that. Okay.
Correct. Correct. And it's even if there may still be some funds remaining, right? But again, it's already less than 2,000. But
Right.
for whatever is left, it'll be that much less, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why making sure that we can set ourselves up intentionally is going to be the better thing than not to do. Another thing, man, 61% of people are living paycheck to paycheck right now,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people are getting laid off. Um, and even with the most safe, or what we consider to be some of the most safe jobs, federal jobs, right? Department of Education, IRS, like a lot of this stuff is happening right now. And
Mm-hmm.
so ultimately, what these numbers are really laying out for us, Lerone, is that one, I've already said these things, right? But one, a lot of us, if God called us home right now, our families are going to be struggling. The second thing these numbers are telling us is that we're not saving enough. And then the
Mm-hmm.
third thing is we're not making enough money in the first place. And so, again, we recognize that there's a challenges that people are having.
Mm-hmm.
We recognize that there's a need for learning about how to operate your money and your finances. And so, again, this is literally what my job is to do. And so, again, I just want to continue to share just a little bit about that today. And so, what we recognize though is that most people are living in what I call a debt cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, what I mean by that is that's just when the money is controlling you as the individual. We're outspending the money that's coming in. We are having to borrow money and take out loans, whether that's payday or student loans or whatever, to be able to maintain a certain lifestyle. We're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you will.
Right.
But the goal, of course, is to get folks to what I call a cash cycle, meaning we don't have to ask our bank account, "Hey, can I go on this trip?" or
Mm-hmm.
"Can I go out to eat?" Right. So we
Yeah.
want getting to a place where we're debt free, we're able to pay with cash versus having to take out loans and do those kinds of things. And now we have some things in place for ourselves, like investments, savings, and we have assets, right?
Right.
Um, and so a lot of folks don't recognize that of all the things that can really negatively impact your financial security, debt is by far, it's not even close, by far the most dangerous. Because once you get into it, you borrow $1,000 and you got to pay back 1,500. We're digging a little bit of a hole for ourselves. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, again, we know what the challenges are, we know what the problems are, but we got to figure out solutions, right? And so that's
Right.
that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. High level, of course, but yeah, want to talk a little bit about that. And so that solution comes in there's a 3-step program, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
The first is learning how to invest. And that means paying yourself first, making sure that you have the right sort of fundamental accounts in place for yourself so that you're set up properly for the future. That second step is speeding up that process of getting rid of the debt. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's different programs or strategies that you can use to be able to do that. because we don't want to continue giving away our wealth, right? We want to build
Right.
wealth, not give it away.
And let me
But then
pause on
that,
this. Let me cut you for a moment, right? If I can, let me
sure,
step in there.
sure,
Okay, so when you talk about debt, people always look at debt as a bad thing. Debt is a bad thing depending on how you use debt, right? You can use debt as a good
correct,
thing. For example, if I buy a house and I'm living in a house, that house is now a debt because I'm paying it and I'm living it. But if I buy a house and I rent out the house is still a debt because you still have to put out a mortgage on it, but you're getting profits from the tenants living in it. So there's a
yes,
difference between good debt and bad debt. Good debt is debt that you can
correct,
use to profit from. Bad debt is
correct,
basically buying something that brings no value at all. Okay, so when you hear debt, be in the mindset of it's what debt he's talking about. He's typically talking about spending for things that's not a need versus something that is an asset. That's the debt he's referring to when he's talking about debt. Okay, it's things that don't bring you value, kind of debt. All
correct.
right.
You're spot on. You're spot on. And I'm glad that you even mentioned that, to be honest. So this that the way that you use debt in the way that you're talking about, that's going to be typically for folks who are a little bit more savvy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but again, is that most people? Unfortunately, not, right?
Right.
But if you are at a little bit of a higher level, then yes, there are 100% some awesome ways to be able to utilize that. However, if you are at a stage where you're still trying to figure it out and
Mm-hmm.
get yourself on track, those are definitely the folks that we
Yeah.
want to make sure that we do our best to stay away from that until we get it all figured out, right?
Get the debt figured
Uh,
out.
and then that last piece, at least as far as that third step that I'm talking about, protecting your income. Again, as we continue to build, we want to get the account to look a certain type of way, right? we
Right.
want to we want to get the lifestyle to be a certain type of way.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, we want to make sure that we have some protection just in case that income were to not be able to continue flowing for the spouse or for the kids or for our loved ones. And so let's talk about step one. Talk about step one. So paying yourself first. So what does that mean? Everybody gets our money. We get
Mm-hmm.
paid, right? And the light bill, the light company, they get their money,
The
and
mortgage.
fuel in the car, they get
The
our money,
government,
and
they the first one. They're gonna take your money before you see it. The government.
exactly
Uncle
right.
Sam gonna take
Uncle
your money before
Sam,
it even hit the bank.
exactly right. And so everybody's getting a piece.
Yeah.
But when we look in the account, sometimes it's kind of like, well, kind of like a head scratcher. Like, well, what happened to it? Like, I work hard for this. I don't even have any for
Mm-hmm.
myself. And so I talk to folks a lot about the three, what I call the three fundamental accounts. The first of those being an emergency account.
Yes.
The purpose of that is for exactly what it sounds like,
Mm-hmm.
emergencies. All right. The goal of that account is, as far as dollar amounts, whatever you make for a month, multiply that times three. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make $1,000 a month, then a fully funded emergency account is going to be 3 months worth of income saved up. And so again, that's for emergencies. So you got to get new tires on the car unexpectedly, or you had to get rushed to urgent care, or whatever the case may be, right? But that's that emergency account. I'm gonna jump to number three, right? Wealth building account. And so the purpose of that is exactly what it sounds like again, right? Building
Mm-hmm.
some wealth. So that's retirement. So a lot of us are familiar with like the 401k that the
Yes.
job offers,
Mm-hmm.
or an IRA, which stands for individual retirement account.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, those kinds of accounts are gonna get us some different tax benefits. Again, I'm gonna keep it high level today, but they give us some different tax benefits and allows our money to grow. So we work hard for the money, but now our money can also work hard for us
Yes.
at the same time in some of those accounts. And then right there in between, right, that number two that you see is that short-term account. And so this is for situations that aren't necessarily emergencies because we got money for that, but we're also going to need that money before we turn 59 and a half years old, right? That wealth building account.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is for everything in between. So you might be looking to buy that house in the next few years, or you know, build up some college savings for your kid who's going to be graduating, when they turn 18, or whatever the case may be. But that in between stuff, right? That's what that short term account is for. A fully funded short term account is going to be 6 months, at least 6 months worth of income saved up in that account. And so that one is a big deal too, because it's not, again, emergency money, but it does still also have that ability to grow similar to your wealth building accounts, but you don't get in trouble for accessing those monies if you need it
Mm-hmm.
for that down payment for a house or whatever the situation may be. So again, those are the three fundamental accounts that I like to make sure that folks have. Um, if you want to chime in on that, feel free. But otherwise, I want to jump on over to that next piece, because that's step one, right? We got to figure out and be disciplined with paying ourselves first with
Mm-hmm.
those fundamental accounts. That second piece, as I mentioned, paying off debt, right? We got to
Yes.
get that. We got to get that monkey off our back. And real quick story, man. How the reason or the way I got started doing what I'm doing here, Laron,
Mm-hmm.
is because of this right here, because of debt. So I took the standard route of going to school and getting the grades and getting a job with the good benefits and all of this stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of student loans that came from that path that I took. And so I ended up sitting down with a young lady, my wife's best friend's financial advisor. That sounds like a lot of people. But we sat down with this young lady, and she completely changed a lot of what we had going on financially.
Mm-hmm.
But the main thing that she did was she created a debt plan for us. And so this debt plan, I remember some of those smaller student loans, Laron, it was supposed to take us 11 years to pay them off. We started following this lady's plan, making some adjustments, and we paid off those 11-year loans in 8 months.
Wow.
And I never heard of anything like that. Never in my life. I'd never seen anything like that. I had also never reached out to anybody for any guidance on how to fix that situation. But that was a major deal for us, man. And so I'm really passionate about this second step in that process. And so, for example, let's say we got a 35-year-old individual, and they got some normal stuff that most of us have, right? They got a couple credit cards, they got the Macy's card, they got a car loan, a mortgage. Again, a lot of stuff that's pretty standard these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what they're doing is, what a lot of us are doing, we just pay it off as they send the bill in,
Mm-hmm.
um, and there's no issue. You guys send me the bill, I send you the money, transaction is complete, right? And so going that route, I'm going to show you the difference between just going that route and just applying a little bit of strategy to it. So if you apply what's called debt stacking, that's one of those strategies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Debt stacking, and it gets a little bit detailed because we look at interest rates and the loan balance and all these things. But high level again, right? If we just apply a little bit of strategy, let's say that Macy's card is $220 as far as the balance.
Mm-hmm.
Once we end up paying that off, then instead of pocketing that $220, what we do is we stack that, and so we just toss that on top of the credit card payment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we don't have extra money. We're going to treat it like we don't have extra money. We're going to stack that, and so
Nice.
now instead of the credit card payment being 353, now we're dropping 573 on that. All right, so we're going to help speed up that process to get rid of that debt,
Yeah.
and we're going to repeat the process, right? So once we pay off credit card 2, we'll take that 573. We're going to act like we never had it,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to drop that now on that car payment. And so now instead of $551, now we're tossing $1,124 at that car loan. So again, we're just speeding up. We're stacking on top just so we can speed up that process
Mm-hmm.
a little bit by a little bit, right? And so we'll
Yeah.
repeat that process for the rest of those loans and those debts that we have. And so what will end up happening is if that individual continued doing what they were doing, just applying no strategy, right? Just again
Mm-hmm.
paying the bill as they were,
Mm-hmm.
it would take them 23 years to pay that off. All right. So they'd be 58 by the time they're done with that.
Right.
And you see that amount of interest that they
Oh
would have
yeah.
paid, man, over $200,000 just in interest alone,
Yeah.
because, you get that Macy's card. I keep saying Macy's, but whatever, JC Penney, Best Buy, whatever, right? But you got that balance, let's just say $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they say, well, hey, just send us these minimum payment of $23 a month
Worst
and
thing you
it's
can do.
fine.
Yeah, you're just paying off the
And
interest. You're not paying that
exactly, right. And
premium.
so they're
Yeah.
okay with that because now you're locked in
You're
for
locked.
all of these years. And so
That's right.
you're following what I'm getting at, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so again, just applying a little bit of strategy like this debt stacking that we're talking about. Now, instead of 23 years, that same debt is paid off in 9 years now. So 14 years sooner. Now you've avoided over $130,000
Mm-hmm.
in interest. But on top of that, look what happens if we continue to act like we don't have that money, right? If we save that money into
Mm-hmm.
one of those wealth building accounts, for
Right.
example, and we get a pretty solid rate of return, let's just say 9%, man, average retirement age is 65 to 67. You got $2.4 million. Instead of you giving away wealth, now you're building it for yourself,
That's
right?
right.
And
And
so,
it's so unique how this is working because basically when you started off, you don't have the money anyway because you're going to paying off your debts. So basically, what it is when you focus in on the debt, and as you pay the debt off, that money that you would get that you would save from not having to pay that debt no more just goes into the nets. That's how it's compounding. It's just basically
exactly,
you take it because you don't have it. It's like, okay, well, if I could do it for one, and as you do it for one, and I've seen where the psychology is pay your smallest debt first, because once you see you can pay it off, your mindset then gets to going like, I can do this, I can do this,
you feel
and
good
you're
about it.
basically living off. Even if you are making more money, well, that debt is consuming your money, but you're basically living off less than. So then, when this debt is paid off, now all that money that you would have that you've got so used to basically managing and living without, you're just building your wealth from that same money. And once the debt is cleared, now you have an abundance that you can put into separate accounts because you know that you've trained yourself. I don't need this money. I can use the
Correct.
minimalist. You've got your mindset into the minimalist mindset, you know. And for some
Exactly.
people, that's the discipline that they can't. But others, I mean, hey, I've done it myself. So this strategy does work. Pretend
It
like you never
does.
had the money, and then once you, I mean, think about this: when the government takes your money, you don't see it. That's the same mindset, except
Right.
you're not doing it for the government; you're doing it for yourself. You know.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. No, you're everything you said is spot on, man. Super spot on, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But it really is a big deal. And again, the companies, they don't teach it to you. They know what they're doing. They don't just choose these interest rates out of thin air. Oh, they,
Right.
they know exactly what's going on. So
Yeah.
it's up to us to kind of get some of that knowledge, right? And so cool. We figured out step one. We get the savings going, emergency funds, that kind of deal. All right. We're working on the debt now. We get to a point where we're knocking that stuff out one by one.
Right.
But then that third step is making sure that we can protect some income. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's just look at a typical family, right? Husband, wife, or whatever, spouse. They both work, bringing in some income. So let's just, this example that we're looking at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wife bringing in 3,500, husband bringing in 3,500. They got baby girl, right? And they got bills, like we all do, right? Nobody
Yeah.
is exempt.
That's
They
right.
got bills, and so they got mortgage, cars, insurance, right? Credit cards, again, the normal stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Utilities, groceries, got to pay for daycare, which is almost rent in itself, right? These days. But
Yeah.
they got bills, and those bills come up to $7,000, right? And so they operate off of a two-person income. And so the reason that protecting your income is such a big deal is because if God did decide to call us home yesterday, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw what just happened there, but
No, sir.
if we lose somebody, then do the bills stop?
No.
Nah, that doesn't happen. The bank might call you. They might say sorry for your loss, but they might not. But what they're for sure going to say is, "Hey, we need our money or we need our house," right? You can
Mm-hmm.
pick and choose, but we need that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a fact. And so, if to best set our families up, our kids, our spouses, to set them up for success, that's where that protecting the income piece comes in, so
Mm-hmm.
that they don't have to move, whatever the plan was to get the accounts a certain way. Yeah, we do these things for ourselves, right? That's why we save and such. But and we might not quite make it as far into the future as we're planning, right? Like
Yeah.
personally, I plan on making it to 120. Will that happen? I don't know, right? God might call me home sooner than that.
Mm-hmm.
But I still want the plan to be the plan. I still want my wife to have a certain lifestyle. I still want the kids to
Mm-hmm.
have a certain lifestyle. And so that's where protecting that income comes in. And so, if this were to happen to, and I ask people this all the time because it's real life, because without it, that's the GoFundMe's. We've all seen them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the fish plates at the church, right? Normal stuff. But man, if this were to happen to your family, what kind of situation would they be in? And
Mm-hmm.
so again, that's really what it comes down to. But um, again, paying yourself first and learning to invest, getting rid of that debt, and then again protecting the income is what I believe to be the foundation or the baseline of any sort of financial plan. Um, Speaking of plans, most people don't plan to fail. They just fail to have a plan, and so unintentionally, we're planning to fail, right? Unintentionally, and so the problem is there's so many different places to go and get all these different things that you need financially. You go to the life insurance guy to get that, and you go to the lender to get the mortgage, and you call up Visa for the credit card, and you go to the bank for the savings account, you go to the job for the retirement, and so there's just stuff all over the place, and we're kind of in the middle, and these institutions, they're giving us the products, right, but nobody's really giving us that plan that I talked about. Nobody's giving us an actual plan or strategy to say, hey, let's take it step by step. This is the whole. This is how we should be going about this thing, and so that creates a problem, right? Because again, we're doing stuff, but we don't really know the rhyme or reason behind it, or if
Yeah.
it's truly working out, because there's no cohesiveness to what it is that we have going on. And so, a big part of what I do, yes, I bring the education because well, I know they say knowledge is power, and I hear that, Larone.
Hmm.
However, I really and truly believe that applied knowledge is where the real power is, because
Yes.
why learn how to read if I'm not going to pick up a book, right? Like we
Hmm.
gotta put it to use. And so yes, I bring the education to folks, and bring some understanding, and I provide some strategy, but we also provide the different options and solutions that are available so that people can put some action behind those strategies and the education that they've now gotten. And so
Hmm.
we bring a full solution. I call it a financial needs analysis, which is exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Analyzing the financial needs of what your situation is. So that might be savings or the debt or the
Hmm.
income protection or just budgeting and learning how to manage it all.
Right.
Every bit of it matters, right? And so again, that's just a big part of what I do. But I always ask folks like, hey man, and this is for you, anybody who's listening right now, checking this out, on a scale of 1 to 10, and this is something to ask yourself, right? With 10 being the highest, how would you rate your desire to be properly protected, debt free, and ultimately financially independent? That's something I want you to ask yourself and take into consideration. But again, as I mentioned, Larone, high level, I wanted to just make sure I touched on a few points today. And
Hmm.
yeah, just kind of let you know a little bit of what it is that I got going on, and just kind of plant some seeds for some individuals who might be checking this out, who might be looking to, you know, establish a foundation for themselves financially.
Hmm. And you don't, and you're gonna be coming on here for more of those little tips and tricks, right?
For sure, man. As long as you're
uh,
welcoming me,
Hey,
I'm here to deliver the
you're
goods.
always welcome. I love that brilliant mind right there, and a lot of what you said makes perfect sense, right? And it's basically like you see people who go to the gym. They go to the gym, and it takes them out of hard work to go to the gym and build the muscles, build it, and it takes dedication through pain. Well, finances is kind of the same way. It's just a different type of pain.
There you
When you
go.
go, it takes hard to not spend money on things you want and but really don't need. It becomes a discipline. It becomes a lifestyle, like the gymnast. It's a lifestyle. Well, financial is a lifestyle as well. It's whether you want to live that lifestyle or not.
Yeah.
Anybody can choose to not buy something or choose to buy something. That's a choice. And when you get into this habit of, I got to appeal to others, like, oh, I got to have this flashy stuff to appeal to others. Well, that's what they call the rich looking broke man in the long run.
Yeah. Hmm.
Whereas to, okay, you can buy a high priced brand, you're paying for the name. How does that benefit you? You know, be
Yeah.
happy with what you got, and then at the same time, you focus because you're thinking about future. While this guy's flaunting now, when it's 30 years later, I mean, you retired, you can flaunt then, because now you done built
Right.
your wealth. You got the big house, you got things, you got your money working for you at the time. You got your money working
Exactly.
for your kids at the time. That's the idea. Okay. Investors
And
seek opportunities.
what's interesting about what you said too? I know a lot of folks like I'll toss out the word budget, and it's almost like a curse word, man.
Mm-hmm.
When I toss out budget when I'm talking with folks, um, we don't necessarily. It would be great, right, if you want to speed up your process to,
Mm-hmm.
cut back on everything, right, trim all the financial fat, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's not even what's fully required, really, because I talked about folks being paycheck to paycheck. I said 61%, and that's the real number. Really, what that means is every 2 out of 3 people are living paycheck to paycheck. Now, that's whether they make a little bit of money or whether they make a lot of money. So sometimes income is the problem or the challenge, but sometimes it's, and more oftentimes than not, it's just a matter of managing what we have. And so, just to bring it back to, again, to the point that you were making, um, budgeting or managing the finances is really the key of it all. Like, we don't have to necessarily cut everything out. If we want to have a little fun,
You can
or
have a fun.
go eat out somewhere, or get a something with a brand, that's fine, but make sure that it's within budget, right? Make sure that it's within the means, so that we're not
Mm-hmm.
overstepping and
I,
setting ourselves backward,
yeah, I would say, in a sense like that, if you ain't got no, well, of course, we got light bills. You got your basic utilities that comes all around, right? But if you have no
Mhm.
outstanding bills like student loans, like car, you paying the, your car note off, and stuff like that, something that's major debt that you could focus on. I think at that time, you know, you can, give a little bit to yourself. You might need that vacation every now and again. But then it goes back to the second plan he has, where it says that small term, that small term money that you save can go to something like that, right?
Mhm.
It's just being disciplined. All of it boils down to discipline.
There you
Okay,
go. Such is life, right?
that's what it boils down to. I mean,
Yeah.
people are disciplined in one thing or not in the other. I'm guilty. I'm disciplined in one thing, and some things I'm not. But hey, we're all guilty of that. But in this case,
Welcome to church.
yeah, I mean, but on some realness though, we all should be disciplined on this because, like you said before, there's a lot of stuff going on right now.
Yeah,
A
for
lot
sure.
of unemployment's happening right now,
For
and
sure.
there was a lot of people that when things were going well, they wasn't preparing for themselves for when things go bad. And we know that the market changes all the time. It's high, then it's low. It's high, then it's low, then it's high. It does that all the time, right? That doesn't
Literally.
change. In good times, prepare for hard times. In hard times,
Mhm.
you will have what you need to get through it, but you'll be ready to, get your big piece of pie when things come back up again. You're
Right.
ready. You're prepared. That's all it's
Exactly.
about.
In
Mr.
the
Monte.
summertime, you got to prepare for the winter, right? It gets
Hey.
cold during the day. During the day, you got to prepare. It gets dark out. You got to prepare.
Hey, talk about Mr. Munch. Hey, look, man. I
Yes,
want to thank you for
sir.
coming on the show. Hey, how does people reach? To people who want to reach out to you to get your coaching, how do they reach out to you?
Man, you can reach out to me live and direct. As a matter of fact, there's social medias and such out there, and that stuff is fine. But I live and direct. You can give me a call, um, 404 Um, or email monte.smalls at gmail. That's monte dot SMALLS at gmail.com. The reason I put out, my direct stuff, Lerone, is because information is already free online.
Mm-hmm.
Google has it all, right? Um, if it were just the information and just grabbing stuff online, people would have done it already.
Right.
Um, but I want people to have I want to continue to make an actual impact for folks. And so if people actually want that, then they'll do what they need to do, and they'll reach
Mm-hmm.
out for sure. So,
Mm-hmm.
live and direct, you can definitely connect with me.
All right. He put the information out there. I'm gonna put it in the description box, and he's gonna be back. This ain't gonna be his last time. He's gonna be back on the show. We're gonna have more to discuss. Thank you, man. I thank you for the education. She's willing to share, and that's the issue that you was talking about earlier. We have no guidance, so now we have somebody that's willing to give, willing to teach, willing to educate. And I'm not gonna say I'm too old to learn. There's a lot of stuff that I can learn from this guy, and there's a lot of stuff that I could teach. But we don't take that for granted. We want the education, and anything we can do to build the community, make the community more financially free, financial literate, get them going. That's where it starts. It starts in the household, then in the neighborhood, then we build in cities, and then expand beyond that. Thank you, sir. It's good to have you.
I appreciate you. Thank you.